So good afternoon, I'm Ian Valley. As Philip said, I'm from Amazing Communications, which is not a household name, even in my own household. And I also chair the Photonics Leadership Group for BIS. The Photonics Leadership Group covers a very wide range of things, including high-efficiency lighting and lasers for cutting metal with and all sorts of stuff, but inter alia, it also covers fibre to the home, fibre optics and the telecom side of that. So we have interests across some very broad technologies, some technologies here. But I want to start off with some stuff about content. And on October the 16th last year, Andy Duncan, the boss of Channel 4, made a quite important announcement, I think, which was that, do you want to turn one of the lights off or something? That's probably better, yeah. You can all sleep in the dark now. That they were going to put all of Channel 4's content onto YouTube. They've got an arrangement with YouTube for a revenue share of advertising, and they're going to put all of their back catalogue, all of their current programmes, the stuff that appears on 4OD, on Channel 4 at the moment, is all going onto YouTube. Now, the importance of that is that this is a peg in the ground where a broadcaster has finally decided that they're actually selling content as opposed to owning a distribution network or transmitters or doing anything else like that, right? And you may think, some of you, that isn't that significant. But actually, the fact is, we've never been there before, right? We've never been there before with people actually thinking that that's what they're really doing. And it's an important change of mindset, I think, and I'll go on to explain why I think that's so important as we go there. And in that context, I think we're at a really important point in history where things are taking off in a big way. We've talked for years and years, well, I personally have talked for at least 30 years about taking broadcasting off the radio waves and putting it down fibres or putting it down other connections to premises. And, you know, for a long time this was just something that we knew we could do technically, but there was no way of actually doing it, and it wasn't really happening, and so on and so forth. And with the rise of something like iPlayer at the moment, that the BBC has piloted, it's been astonishingly successful with. iPlayer is the second largest streamer of flash movies in the world after YouTube. And when you consider it's only confined to the UK, that's a very significant number. So we've got something here which has really taken off and is making an enormous difference to what's happening. And video as such, I mean, I talk about broadcast, but broadcast is inherently video in this context as far as we're concerned technically with it. So video is what's driving everything. Video is what's driving the demand for bandwidth. Video is what's driving the demand for almost everything in this regard. And I think we are, say, at a turning point where this is becoming, you know, really rather different, and everything is going that direction. I mean, the latest version of the little iPod Nano now shoots video, as of a couple of months ago. And that's what comes as the default. You plug it in, you know, you don't have any problems dealing with it, you've got a video there, you can upload it to something else, you can send it on your phone, on your mail, on your, you know, I mean, we know how to do all this stuff. Well, actually, although we talk about it blithely like this, and it all seems so easy now, I mean, I remember a little while back when it wasn't that easy. You know, you had format problems, you tried to do something with it, it still didn't work, you know, whatever you tried to do. It was too big, it wouldn't go, couldn't send a file, it's, you know. And you don't notice those transitions, so we move gradually through all those things that were stopping us. And then you get to the point where you suddenly think, oh, take it for granted, you know. I mean, I can do all that stuff. I mean, I take out my smartphone, you know, I take a video, I just send it to somebody. I mean, it only takes 2 keystrokes, you know. It's really easy. But it never was like that. And it's really important to understand what that means. Because the implication is that we've got big changes going on in what's happening on the network and what the network has to deal with. So, from a telecoms point of view, video is the new dial tone. Video is what's happening in all of these areas. And we may worry about the bandwidth, we may worry about what's going to happen to it, but in 10 years' time we're not going to worry because it's all going over that fibre that's going to be there. And it is going to be there, and we are going to get there, it's just we don't quite know how to make that transition from where we are now to where that really needs to be and what's going to happen out there to get that fibre everywhere. Unless you're mobile, of course, in which case the mobile's also got to keep up. So we need 4G mobile and beyond, because it's got to at least have a proportion of the speed of the fixed networks, and that's, you know, a challenge for the mobile networks to keep up as well. And while still on content, but from a different angle as well, things have disappeared into the web as well. Stuff that we used to run on our machines has disappeared into the web, and we've got everything from cloud computing, in terms of actually computing power, to the ASP model, the application service provider model. I mean, again, we've been talking about application service providers as a business segment for at least 20 years, and we all thought naively back in those days that application service providers were going to be a big company, I mean, you know, a telco type company or something like that would actually deliver these applications, and we'd go in there and go, well, it didn't work like that at all, did it? You know, they were all invented by 2 students in their dorm, you know, with nothing else to do on it one weekend, and wrote some little application that made this stuff work, and then they get bought by Google, and then they, you know, and then it's available on big servers, and it all works. Well, I mean, you know, Salesforce.com is a good example of that. I mean, brilliant tool. Google Apps has all sorts of things, all the sort of photo application things, I mean, and hundreds of others, you know. So at the serious business level, you can now run an enormous amount of stuff without going and spending £1 million on a Sage system, or £1 million on some other CRM system, or, you know, something else of that sort. You just don't need to spend that money anymore. So in terms of productivity for businesses, I mean, this is really good news. I mean, small businesses can do this stuff in the same way as big businesses now. This is the universal levelling that goes on when stuff disappears into the web and makes it universally available. And again, we sort of know that, but I think it's important to emphasise it, because it really is where stuff is going, and it actually allows people to do things a lot more and a lot faster than they could do previously. In fact, everything is disappearing into the web. You know, television with iPlayer has disappeared into the web, and music, as we know, has disappeared into the web already with the, you know, Apple and whatever. And I think TomTom is disappearing into the web actually in terms of GPS. I mean, now it's just sort of online, and you go to Google online and, you know, with your smartphone, and you don't need your TomTom anymore or anything like that, because it's all just disappeared into there, you know. And the news has disappeared into there, although there's still arguments about whether you're going to have to pay for it or something, but except books. Books didn't really disappear into the web, because for some reason that I don't understand at all, books somehow, either you need a Kindle or a Sony player or something special to read it on. Why you would need something special with another display and another battery and another power supply you've lost and can't find the connection for? I mean, why would you need all that? You know, when you could actually just run it on your normal machine. But now we've got an iPad coming from Apple, and maybe that will solve it. But actually, I think it's going to be more general than that. I don't even think it's iPad. I think it's actually just going to be on whatever machine you've got, whatever you happen to have in your hand, wherever you go elsewhere. Books are going to be there. We haven't quite broken the copyright issue, but it's moving there. So a lot of stuff going on in content, but let's just move on to the UK and some networks and some issues and some stuff running around here now. So the Digital Britain report last year has been widely criticised for not being ambitious enough, but it's actually quite difficult to think of something you're going to go out and say, we're going to do this for the whole country, and gosh, how are we going to deliver it? There's no point in saying we're going to deliver 100 megabits, although the Conservatives did say that this week, on Sunday. There's no point in going out and saying that if you don't actually know how you're going to deliver it, because you do have to back this up and say, how are we actually going to deliver this stuff? And I think it's actually quite a difficult task, and that's the nub of the problem that we actually want to deal with today in the breakout sessions and elsewhere, as much as anything else. I mean, how do we bridge that gap from where we are to where we'd like to be? Now, okay, we want to be a lot further than 2 megabits, that's for sure, but actually the report only said 2 megabits was going to be absolutely universal service obligation, and there's going to be a lot more megabits coming from all sorts of other different systems as well. At least, I think the Digital Britain report actually indicated that somebody was actually thinking about the problem, and obviously it was Stephen Carter when he was there at the at this. But Peter Mandelson has now picked this up, and it's become one of Mandy's hot items. So if the Dark Lord can do it, almost anybody can probably do it. There is demand for services. By the way, do you like this background? It's what you get if you put groovy into Google Images search, right? So this is official, right? Groovy stuff. I think it's rather nice.